Welcome, fans, to the Great North Wrestling Podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling. Tonight, we are pleased to welcome a esteemed guest that we've had on the Old School Shooters podcast. His name is the Starmaker Kenny Bolin, and we will get to him in just 1 second. But tonight, because we had Kenny on Old School Shooters before and it was cut short due to some weather conditions on my part, we have the King of Connecticut here in the studio joining the Great North Wrestling Podcast. King, how are you doing?
You disappeared on us, Jack, last time. You disappeared on us, and it's great to have you back, and it's great to have Kenny Bolin, the Starmaker, back. Wait, Jack, I've got a fan here on the side, Cheryl, she says, if you be my devil, I'll be your angel tonight. Cheryl, is that Cheryl? Cheryl Ladd is checking in here on the side.
From Charlie's Angels, I tell you.
Yes, she's checking in here on the side. And then I've got another one here. I see Sophie. Who is this? It's Sophie Dawkins, and yes, I will be your lover. Damn, I will be your lover. Sophie Dawkins.
I tell you who won't be checking in tonight. That'll be Farrah Fawcett. We will not be seeing her here tonight.
No, we won't see Farrah. But
if we do,
wait. I do see one more here. I do see one more from a Tina. Tina, wait, Tina. Is that Tina? That's Tina Turner. And yes, I know, baby. I am simply the best, baby. I am simply the best. So, Jack, you thought you had that turned up, but I don't think so. I think all three of them might have been turned on.
Yeah,
Jack.
It looks like some of them are getting through there. I thought we had this thing taken care of.
Well, King,
if Farrah gets through, then apparently I'll have to denounce my atheist stance. I won't even be able to do that.
Yes.
Well, what is Farrah Fawcett most famous for?
The shampoo.
Well, those are all right. What else is she most famous for?
The poster that those of us of a certain vintage.
That was very famous, but she's also famous for something that actually worked in her disfavor.
You got me.
Of course, she was married to Lee Majors. Of course, she was the biggest star on Charlie's Angels. Only lasted a season or two, I think. I don't think she was there real long. She got replaced by a couple other people. No, she is most famous for dying on the same day as Michael fucking Jackson.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Farrah died that morning. We're going to Golden Corral, and I'm listening to WHAS radio, and me and a bunch of the OVW, now WWE wrestlers are going to Golden Corral. She dies that morning. We get to Golden Corral. It's about 5:30, 6 o'clock. Get out of the car. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, horrible news. One of the most famous people in the world has died today. And we're thinking, yeah, we already know. Farrah Fawcett. No, Michael Jackson. And nobody remembers that Farrah Fawcett died that day. So that would be my luck. If I died, Jerry Lawler would die the same day, and no one will know I fucking died. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
That's certainly unfortunate, but her legacy remains notwithstanding that unfortunate series of events. And Kenny, I wanted to wish you a belated happy birthday, by the way.
Yes. Just turned 63 on Thursday and had a couple of great meals. Wick's Pizza was delivered to me by a fan in Indiana, also in the business a little bit. Timmy Lee, he sent me a $50 Wick's Pizza that I'm still eating on. I still got half of it left. It came here Thursday. That's how big and thick those pizzas are. And we were guests at BW3's that night for, it basically ended up being all you can eat chicken, boneless chicken. It's buy one, get one free, but you get like 30 pieces of chicken, and I brought half of it home. And so it was a great night. I got to meet with some old high school friends that I hadn't seen in a while, and from the class of 79 at Oldham County High. We had a great time. Had a lot of fun. Jimmy Cornette was not there, by the way, in case people are wondering.
Jimsy was not in attendance. And, a lot of people don't realize.
Jimsy, you call him. Jimsy.
Yeah, good old Jimsy, and I'm sure Jimsy has been to a few of the BW3s. And a lot of people don't know it's Buffalo Wild Wings and Weck was the original name. And Weck was a bread that they had at
that part I didn't know. I knew the Buffalo Wild Wings. And, of course, most people just go BW3s these days. I didn't know the other part. What was that part? Weck?
It was Buffalo Wild Wings in Weck when they first
No.
opened in Weck. I was living in Virginia when that chain first started, and the Weck was a type of bread that they had.
My father's from the Chesapeake and Norfolk areas in Virginia.
Yeah, you might have heard of this Weck bread. That was the original name of the BW3. But I wonder if old Jimsy had spent any time at the BW3. He's mostly homeward bound these days, from what I understand. He doesn't get out to many of the events.
I don't get out a lot, but I think I get out 10 times more often than he does. I do leave the house once or twice a week. I think Jimmy might leave the house once or twice a year from what I'm hearing. But he's always liked it that way. He doesn't interact with real people real well.
Yeah, but
he can put on a front at these conventions and shit. But just like if we'd go out to eat and if fans walked up to say hi or whatever, he'd always be very uncomfortable with that. But he would really be uncomfortable because I was on TV a lot more than he was during that time. So he would really be fucked up if they came up and knew me but didn't know who Jimmy was. And he would think I'd had it staged, or I just had somebody come up to act like this. No, Jimmy, I don't know who the fuck they were. But,
do you know who his tailor was back in the day for those colorful suits?
I'm assuming Underdog. No, actually, I think he just went to J.C. Penney's and just bought, shit off the rack that was just loud and bold. And I know when I got married the first time, I got married in a suit that he gave me, and I got my first sales job in a suit that he gave me that he had grew out of. He had there for quite some period of time. He was heavier than me. And he got up near 300 pounds when he went to Connecticut, and that's when he went on kind of a fish diet and diet Sprite. That's how he got hooked on diet Sprite.
He never was a fan of our pizza. Connecticut. I'm a native of Connecticut. We were always known for our pizza, and I don't think he was ever much of a fan of our fine Italian cuisine.
Connecticut. I do know when he lived in Connecticut, he had Rock-A-Bar where me and Vince Russo met for the first time. It's a famous pizza place in Evansville, Indiana. And Jimmy and I used to go there as teenagers when we were wrestling fans, and he was a photographer. And then later, once we were in the business, we would go there from time to time, especially him, because his pathway went through Evansville way more often than mine. And when he went to Connecticut, apparently he hated Jarrell's Pizza so bad, he had 5 large Rock-A-Bar pizzas frozen and shipped to him. And Jimmy is not a negotiator. He couldn't negotiate a price. If he walked in and found a vehicle for $39,000, he would find a way to pay $49,000 for it. He is not a negotiator. So I don't know what they charged him to mail him those 5 pizzas that were frozen and dry ice and all this shit. But that's how bad he hated your pizza. He had Rock-A-Bar ship him 5 large pizzas that he could put in the freezer and eat as he desired.
Man,
now is Connecticut pizza anything like New York style pizza, or is it different?
Well, Connecticut pizza is, we always say, and the famous quote, and I haven't lived in Connecticut in 20 years, but the famous quote always was, the best pizza in New York can be found in Connecticut. Oh, really? And that was because of our close proximity. And we always were known for our pizza, especially New Haven, Connecticut, modern, Pepe's, Sally's, lines out the door. Yeah. We were always known for our pizza. And it's surprising that he never adapted well to Connecticut. Do you think that might have been because he had I don't know if the right word is prejudice, but he had a negative inclination towards
somebody who has made racist remarks on his podcast, accusing him of being prejudiced? Isn't that funny?
I think he's pretty open about his disgust and disdain for our state, for Connecticut.
Yeah, he was very open. He was very open about it. As a matter of fact, the primary reason he came to OVW, because I'd already been there a couple of years, maybe 3 years in total. And the main reason he came there so he could get the hell out of Connecticut, and he hated being in the WWE, being told what to do, not being on camera and stuff like that. So it was, he was very refreshing when he first got here because all the stress was off and he didn't yell or scream. But he's so obsessive at the shit he gets involved in. I'm one of these guys that if we're doing a show and a piece of the puzzle goes away, somebody's sick, somebody's hurt, somebody gets called up. Okay, well, that piece of the puzzle's gone. Put in a new piece. They take that slot in the puzzle. Jimmy never saw it that way. He'd tear up the whole fucking show, rewrite the entire show. The whole show's fucked. One of these guys, and me and Danny Davis did see it differently. Okay, it's just another piece of the puzzle. They don't know what the fuck we were going to do, so it doesn't matter. Someone blows a spot and he loses his goddamn mind, goes in the back, yells at fucking 15 people over one person blowing a spot. Jimmy, they have no fucking clue. They don't know he was supposed to do this, and instead he did that. Now, if it's an obvious fuck up, guess what? The WWE still has those happen today by some of their top stars. It just fucking happens, and you got to deal with it. But to lose your mind over that and to rewrite an entire show over one person getting called up, and he would be pissed if we didn't get weeks notice. You know, I'm writing these shows 6 weeks in advance. You need to give me 6 weeks notice when you're going to call someone up. Well, Rene Dupree and his partner got called up on like a few days notice. Lance Cade and Mark Jindrak, like a few days notice. And I never could explain to him, hey, we're here to serve them. They're not here to serve us. And he never could comprehend that. They need to give us professional courtesy. We're trying to run a successful television show, and he just didn't understand it. And it never bothered me at all, because that's what we're there for, is to provide and train and develop their talent. And I was fortunate enough to send 54 of my people there under the Bolin Services brand. Lance Cade, Mark Jindrak, Bobby Lashley, John Cena, Bull Buchanan, Sylvester Turkey, Mark Henry. We had the Big Show, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, all the various ones we had that we sent up, that many of them are still there making good money. Dolph Ziggler, Mike Mondo was up there for a while, making a bit of a comeback in ROH. But we got a shitload of people, male and female alike, that are still up there, probably making $1 million a year or more, and in some cases even way more, like the John Cenas and Bobby Lashley's, and I would think Dolph Ziggler does pretty good.
Yeah, but
which is something, Kenny,
wait,
that we're going to.
just want to interject.
I forgot the Miz, because I fought Jimmy. I didn't want to manage him. I didn't like him. But fuck, the Miz, look how long he's been there, and he was destined for failure. He got kicked out of the locker room his first week there. Nobody liked him. I didn't like him. I didn't want to manage him. They made me manage him. And
was that pre reality TV for Miz?
No, he was very deep into reality. He'd already done MTV. He had done Big Brother. He had won Tough Enough, and he really thought he was a big old fucking star when he got here, and he expected to be treated as such. Our fan base didn't know who he was, other than from Tough Enough. They didn't know about Big Brother or MTV and all that shit. Our fan base just didn't know, nor give a shit, nor did the locker room. So he was irritating as shit when he got here. He goes up to WWE, and they kick him out of the locker room, make him dress in the hallway. But I tried to call him and congratulate him on a great promo he did after he'd been kicked out of the locker room. He did some walk along promo to where it starts off in the back, and then I thought it was pre-taped. And then he's walking through the curtains, walking over the ring, and it's one hell of a fucking promo for a guy that I didn't like. So I had his number, and I called him to congratulate him on the great fucking promo, and he never called back. I guess he knew I didn't like him, so fuck you, Bolin. But and Maurice, when she was here, I don't recall the two of them getting along very good. And next thing I know, they get on the road and they get married, and apparently they can't shake each other. So maybe he's changed. I don't know. I didn't care for him when he was here, and obviously he figured that out. He used to call me dad on television to piss me off, because he knew I did not want that label for me. Because Lance Cade already called me dad. Rico called me dad on the shows, and those were the two. They could get by with it, but not the Miz. But he'd do it anyway. So,
how do you feel, Kenny, about guys coming into for the business, into pro wrestling, that have some stardom from another place like reality TV?
You just have to understand your place. It would be like me having a decent amount of regional fame doing OVW television, and of course DVD sales and WWE Network have got me some worldwide acclaim, and then of course doing podcasting. But that doesn't mean I walk onto a Hollywood set and act like I'm a fucking big deal. I'm now invited into their world, and I need to learn how to adapt in their world. I've done a movie or two. and somehow have made credits on several DVD released movies and biographies that I didn't know about till recently. They said, well, you got like 5 or 6 credits on whatever board it is that tracks that shit. And I didn't even know about it. I was in documentaries and shit that I didn't even know I was in. John Cena's My Life, of course, I'm in that. They interview me and Danny Davis on that. So that one I knew about. Of course, Ultimate Deathmatch 2 that I did with Al Snow and various others. Handsome Jimmy Valiant was in that movie as well. And it's a horrible movie. And I've told everybody. As a matter of fact, I told Jimmy, I said, yeah, I said, they say I stole all the scenes. They said, well, Kenny, that was petty theft. You didn't steal much. So might have to agree with him on that.
So Kenny, to kind of backtrack with Jimsy.
And by the way, Jack, just shut the fuck up. You're getting too much shit in here. Just slow up.
We're gonna throw it to Jack after this. So Jimsy is in Connecticut. He's unhappy. Does he carve this territory out for himself, this developmental territory? Is he given a salary? Can you enlighten us on how that came about and what were
it was an idea, and he will shit all over this, but me and my son know the truth because we were there for the talks of it. Originally, the developmental deal was going to go to Ian Rotten. And I mean, if there was going to be a developmental deal, Jimmy was kind of calling and tutoring myself and Ian Rotten on what to do on shows. But Ian kept doing stupid shit and light tubes and barbed wire fence matches and barbed wire bat matches and King of the Death matches and piranha matches and all this shit. And he finally he just kept ignoring the advice Jimmy was giving him and blew an opportunity because he had a better facility. He had a money mark that was bringing in big name talent from the WWE. Fuck, the first WWE star I ever managed wasn't any of my guys. It was Salvatore Sincere. And he was a fairly hot character on the shows then. But this money mark, whose mother died and left him like a fucking $1 million or something. He was a big mark and a big wrestling fan. And he spent all of his money with Ian bringing in, as Jimmy called it, jock sniffing. Ian wanted to sniff the jocks of big stars. So we were bringing in Axel Rotten and Salvatore Sincere and PG-13, Tracy Smothers, when he was big with the FBI. And it was mainly ECW talent and some WWE talent. Dutch Mantel did a lot of those shows with me. So the groundwork, and he had a better facility, bigger arena, better area for wrestling fans. And the groundwork was laid for Ian to have the developmental tour. And then when he just kept fucking up and didn't want to do anything Jimmy was saying or advising him on, Danny Davis got involved in it. And then eventually I was working for both companies. Danny recruited me when he appeared on the Eddie Gilbert Memorial over there, which I got to work with Terry Bam Bam Gordy and Tommy Gilbert. And I was managing not Eddie Gilbert, but Doug Gilbert. Couldn't manage Eddie that night for damn sure. And Tommy Rich was there, and we worked with a lot of big stars over there, but it was because Ian liked sniffing jocks and would pay outrageous money that we knew we couldn't draw a crowd to pay, but he had a money mark to pay them, and that's all that mattered. And I'm guessing he had like $1 million, and apparently they blew every penny of that just bringing in so-called stars so Ian could hang out in the locker room with him and say, yeah, I worked with this guy, I worked with that guy. And, so Danny Davis got the deal. Jimmy talked WWE into letting him do it, and the facility that Danny Davis had was maybe 1/10 as good as what Ian had. And I would assume that Jimmy got somewhat of a salary to be there. I don't know exactly what it was, but I'm sure it was decent. And then the first people we get are Bull Buchanan, Big Show, Mark Henry, Sylvester Turkey, and then eventually we signed John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, all these guys. So a lot of fucking money was being paid out, but they were getting paid, most of them $750 a week to be there. Mark Henry, I think, was making $400,000 a year. Big Show was making $900,000 a year. So when they came there, they hated how hot the facility was. We had no air conditioning and shit. So they bought air conditioning for the locker rooms, bought a giant fan, one of those big motherfucking fans to put out on the crowd. We'd have shows over there. It'd be over 100 degrees in the summertime because there's no windows, no ventilation. Building was painted black to try and keep the temperature down a little bit. But no, Jimmy was on a salary from WWE. So was Danny Davis. And some say that Danny Davis may have put $2 million in the bank while he was running that deal for WWE. I don't know that for a fact, but I've heard a lot of people were saying it. We'll just say that he probably put at least $2 million in the bank while he was doing that.
So Danny Davis then was getting the pay from WWE as opposed to Jimmy.
Officially, Jimmy was hired to help manage and train, not necessarily manage, but to help train the talent. But in all honesty, Danny Davis rarely got in the ring with anybody. Jimmy, unless he was mad at somebody, rarely got in the ring with anybody. He liked traveling to the towns by himself. It ain't like he would throw 4 of the guys in the car like I'd do and educate them on the way to these 3 and 4 hour drives and 3 and 4 hours back. Him and Stacy wanted to be by themselves. They might take, some hot tub victims with them or something, but they didn't, it's not like it was if they was educating them, it wasn't anything to do about wrestling. Let's put it that way. Allegedly.
Oh yeah. Well, you mentioned a name that a lot of fans might not know, but this being old school shooters, Sylvester Turkay, who was an outstanding
he was
collegiate wrestler, but beyond that, he kind of had that Bruiser Brody gimmick, right? He wanted to be the new Bruiser Brody. What were your thoughts on Sylvester Turkay, and why do you think he never really made it as a star?
I was a little blind to it because he and I were such good friends, and as you all probably know by now, I've been a devout atheist probably since I was 7 years old. I wouldn't stand to pledge allegiance to the flag. I wouldn't close my eyes in prayer. I refused.
So was Sylvester some kind of a Bible thumper guy, or what was the deal?
I would say closer to Bible thumper than not. Very, very religious. Would quote scripture from time to time, and he's probably Rico's a very religious guy, and so it's amazing all these religious guys that I get along with. Well, Jason Sanderson, who was a big sponsor on our show, the man's a priest up in New Hampshire. Nashua, New Hampshire is where he used to live. I think he lives in Maine now, but it's amazing. John Cena's dad is Justice of the Peace. He marries people. Very, very devout Catholic.
Yeah, I've got to interrupt you there because I've got to ask you this: is John Cena's biological dad the real? The dad that appears on television, that's appeared on WWE television. That's his real father.
That's his real father.
Now, was he a promoter when John was kind of coming up in the business? Because he got real heavy into it, right?
Yeah, I think due to the love his son had for pro wrestling, when he went to California, he was doing bodybuilding and eventually got hooked up with Bassman out there. I think eventually he just kind of faded into it, and of course, when his son's in the WWE, it's awful easy to book John Cena Sr. on a show.
Yeah, but he didn't groom his son in the business then.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. And as a matter of fact, Cena Sr. and myself used to rib each other on Who's Slamming Who podcast, because Cena Sr. had a podcast after I was on. Jimmy came on after me. The Iron Sheik was on there. Lanny Poffo was on there. And that's where Macho Man Savage learned to hate me at, because I ratted out Savage for a lot of the shit he did in Lexington and treatment of Miss Elizabeth and shit like that. I ratted him out and told his brother he needed to stand up to him.
Well, I got to tell you, in that regard, man, I did a book with Stephanie Bellers, and knew her really well when she lived in South Carolina. She lived with a past guest on this show some years ago. And yeah, I mean, I heard all the stories about the Macho Man, but I was always curious because there was a podcast that was pretty popular in this genre.
Yes, the Leviathan stuff was all shot in OVW. Yes, it was.
Yeah, that John Cena Sr. was co-host of. That the fellow that passed away. Dan Marigali or Marigatti. I apologize, pronounce his name incorrect. But that podcast and that promotion. So I misunderstood. I thought maybe John Cena came up under his father. That his father might have had a wrestling promotion there in Massachusetts.
Absolutely nothing to do with it, as far as I know. That all developed later, And as a matter of fact, John was doing everything he could to make it on his own. Didn't really want any help from his dad, and just wanted to prove, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to do this. But when Cena came to us, he was already doing a television show called Manhunt, and and Cena was very good on that show. He was the only one that was any good. The show
was it a reality show?
To a degree, yeah. To a degree. There's really no such thing as reality shows, as I'm sure you all figured out by now. There's not an ounce of reality in any of the shit, which really disappointed me about Survivor, but that is the most staged show on fucking television. Big Brother's even worse. And my man, Anthony Scaramucci, who's going to be on my show the 27th of March, he was on there, and that even more displayed what a work it was. But no, there's no such thing as reality TV. The last thing I ever want to hear is, well, there's a great reality show. Well, no, there's no such thing, because there's no such thing as a reality show. If cameras are there and directors are there and producers are there, then it's not reality. Now, if you want to put a camera up and let it film what goes on all day, and then you just come in and edit. But the minute someone's in your ear, the minute someone's guiding you, telling you what to say or do, the Bellas are the worst. Oh my God, the most fucking work show on television.
I got to tell you,
and the Miz and Maurice is just as bad. I mean, I don't have any further dislikes or anything with the Miz, but I'm sorry, the show is a total motherfucking work.
If you study television, you look at those of guys
back to Sly Turkey, he was great at being who was the wrestler you said he was being like
Brody, Bruiser Brody.
Yeah, he was great at being Brody, and especially in Japan. He had a lot of good success in Japan. He was a great amateur wrestler, but promos were not his specialty. The way his voice was, he was difficult to understand for television purposes or radio purposes. I've had him on my show on audio only, and they're tough because his voice is so fucking deep that it's difficult. I've got another friend named Cameron like that. The voice is so deep that unless you're really paying attention, it's difficult to understand what they're saying to you. You know, it's not like the three of us with these crystal clear, perfect voices that the fans just love and flock to. You know, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, I got to just backtrack before I turn it over to Jack. When you look,
you're not going to turn it over to Jack, so why don't you just be man enough to admit that, King of Connecticut, and admit Jack is here for eye candy. He's fucking eye candy. He's not going to get to say shit.
Absolutely, but I've got to say, when you talk about that reality TV genre, going back to the original Survivor, if you study television and you look at Seinfeld, Friends, they were making millions of dollars per episode.
Oh, yeah.
And what happened was they found that they could get these buffoons to go on there for pennies to be so-called quote unquote stars and produce these shows so inexpensively. So that's what created the unreality television. I call it unreality television. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the gentleman himself, Jack Kilby.
Wake up, Jack. You're on.
All good. All good. I'm just enjoying the discourse, gentlemen.
Well, when you get two kings bantering back and forth, anything can happen, right? If we could only throw Lawler in here, he's back home in Memphis.
Tremendous. Every kingdom needs a serf, and that's my role. So I wanted to ask you for a while, including the last.
Now, before we go any further, is the king in Connecticut right now, or is that his vacation home down in South Tampa?
I am actually in Florida right now.
I dare say those leaves are not Connecticut.
The king,
I got very few right now, and I know you ain't got more than me in Connecticut.
He set me up for a great segue. The king is in Florida, but I will be returning to Connecticut this fall. And and if folks want to know the details of that, Jack, they can listen to our guests. Who the fuck wants
to be in Connecticut in the fall and in Tampa in the summer? Who the fuck makes that deal? You need to go to Connecticut in about 30 days. Now, you all have, 4 days of summer up there? Like July 4th July 8th?
About 6.5 days of summer.
6.5? Yeah. I knew I underestimated it.
Yeah, the king has several residences, like a real life Ted DiBiase $1 Million Man. So
yeah, I love it here. Winter in
Connecticut starts in late August.
I have to put over the great state of Kentucky, where Kenny Bolin and Jim Cornette are from. I love Kentucky, and I was there. I was there quite a few times. We represented the Sazerac brands out of Kentucky, so I've been there a number of times, and I love Kentucky. And you have to remember, Jimsy was my manager when I faced Adam Newsom there.
You told me that.
Yeah. So I'll turn it over to Jack here.
Little Jimsy. All right. So it's been turned over to you twice now, and you ain't said shit. So go ahead.
Well, that's all right. The cat never usually has my tongue, but the fans that may not know, I think it would be helpful to, in terms of your managing career, we're going to do a question and answer. I'm going to throw out some names of the individuals that you touched on that you managed. Sure. That went on.
Let's not say touched on. You can ask Jimmy those questions.
Back to the hot tub gimmick again, I guess.
Oh yeah, one more time.
One more time.
I didn't touch anybody.
Very good. But before we get into that, I thought it would be helpful and educational for the fans for you to lay out how the whole villainous Bolin Services concept and management cadre came about.
Well, it was laid out to me once it was evident what we were going to do is that Jimmy was going to be moving here. And I think I started with Danny in November of 96, if memory serves me correctly. And I was just sitting in the crowd. I was on television, but oh my God, who's that in the crowd? That's Kenny Bolin. Do y'all know who that is? And no one did because I was doing shows with Ian and that was about it. And I'd done shows in Nashville with Nick Goulas. Nobody in Louisville knew that. So very few people knew who I was other than, okay, I've seen that guy with Cornette a lot of times. Other than that, they didn't know who I was, that I was in the business or anything like that. Pardon my dogs in the background. The windows are open. Hell, the cat's in the window too. And so once it was evident what we were going to be doing, we were going to be developing and training wrestlers for the WWE. He says, well, Kenny, your job is going to be to train and develop and manage the bad guys. The bad guys, anything we think's got a ray of hope, we're going to put with you. So you're going to get the best and the top talent. Matter of fact, they're getting ready to send Bull Buchanan down here. So you're going to get him. He's already been in WWE, so that's good for you. You're attaching yourself to him. He's been seen on television. Then long after that, Mark Henry came down. So now I'm really looking like I'm somebody because two of the guys that have been on a lot of WWE TV are now with me. So now anyone else that comes is a bonus. And then eventually we get Sylvester Turkey, then we get Rico, we get John Cena, and the ball just keeps rolling after that. And then my bump taker was a guy named Jerome Croney. I was getting up there in my weight. I was already sneaking up on 300 pounds then on my way to 589 when I had congestive heart failure. I was gaining about 30 pounds a year. So I needed a bump taker. So that's what Jerome Croney's job was. And then we had Mr. Black, who was the head of security. He was bigger than I was. And he was also a great bump taker and not a bad wrestler. And he was more of a Vader mold. He could do all the shit that Vader could do. And probably could have had a run in the WWE, but he needed to lose probably 75 pounds, I think is what Jimmy put on him. And that just never happened. So he never really got much of a break, but he did wrestle some dark matches up there. So, and Jimmy says, now here's the thing. You're never going to get called up to the WWE. That's not your job. You are going to be the face of the company. And Danny Davis told me the same thing. You're the face of the company. You're the one, because you're the only one that can sell advertising around here is you. The one that will be setting up personal appearances is you. And when it comes to all the top stars that are bad guys, they're going to be with you. If we're going to get rid of all the dead weight around here around you, all the people you've been managing. And I don't mean to shit on the Andretti Express. And I said, well, what about the Andretti Express? Because they were my first ever tag team champions in OVW. And he said, well, we're going to get you as far away from them as we possibly can. He says, you're going to be associated and affiliated with the best. Anybody else is going to fade away. They're going to do whatever. They're going to be enhancement talent. They'll be jobbers, whatever. They're not going to be with you. So that was how that was described. And it just got bigger and better. And it got to the point where, you know, Mark Henry gets called up. John Cena gets called up. Rico got called up before him. And now it's getting to be evident. Well, if you want to fucking be into WWE, you better be in Bolin Services. Well, why? We did great segments. Jimmy was good at writing segments. I was good at enhancing them and putting them in my own words. They finally figured out that you can't hand me a script and get me to go by it. So finally, they made me the bullet point guy. Well, I said, no, I can't be you, Jimmy. You know, we are alike in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways we're not. And you and I, for television purposes, despise each other. You hate me, I hate you. I worked my way into this company and you can't get rid of me. That's the deal. So for me to be just like you is fucking ridiculous. So I can't go out there and read your shit, you know, so I got to put it in my own words with disdain for you. And that's how it worked out the best. But so the more people that came, they would request to be in Bolin Services. A lot of times they didn't want to be baby faces, much like The Miz. They knew the way to get called up, the way that you're going to be seeing the main events on television. And it wasn't necessarily that we were champions, won or lost everything. We just happened to be in the main events. We didn't give a fuck if we won or lost. We didn't give a shit about titles. We knew wherever we were going to be in the main event. And that's how you got seen. All the videos that went up, if you were in Bolin Services, you were being noticed. If you were anywhere else, you weren't. I sent 54 people to the WWE. Still lots of guys up there now making big fucking money. We can name the people that Jimmy Cornette managed that are still in the WWE, AEW, TNA. Just make up some fucking 3 letters, MLW, and name me all the guys that Cornette managed that are still in the business and still making money. You're not going to come up with anybody. And in Sin, her big claim to fame was Batista. And Danny Davis hated him so bad because he shit all over OVW when he got called up that he didn't learn anything because we didn't teach him anything. Well, I didn't manage him. Sin did. And Danny Davis once made a quote that I probably shouldn't repeat here, but Batista's life would not be long to lust for if Danny Davis had his way, because of all the shit that Batista said about us when he got called up. But the WWE had already shot him down because at that point we had sent 37 people to the WWE. Everything they wanted Batista to do, he didn't know how to do or couldn't do it right. And he said, well, they never taught me that there. They didn't teach me that there. Well, I was sick that day. They made me shave my head and I was always sick. Okay, if that's the case, 80% of the NBA should be sick on a daily basis, if that's the case. So they said, well, the 36 that came before you know what to fucking do. So we don't really think the problem is they didn't teach you. You just didn't learn it. So, and eventually things got a little better for Batista, and then eventually he quit and he does. And you know what? He's doing great with movies. Politically, he and I line up perfectly. He's never followed me back. I tried to bury the hatchet. He got pissed because he thought I was hitting on his girlfriend one night. And it was a joke. We were going to go to a Cincinnati Reds game, and Cena wanted to go, and Rico wanted to go. I think Paul London, Sly Turkey, a couple of others. Well, no, London wasn't there yet. It must have been Turkey. So they all wanted to go to the Cincinnati Reds game. And so Batista overhears it, and he steps over, and I see his little girlfriend, Angela, or whatever her name was, standing by the car. And he says, hey, man, y'all going to the Cincinnati Reds? I said, yeah. I think we're going to go this weekend. He says, would you mind if I go? I said, well, I've already got a car full, though. I said, but I think we can make a little room for that cute little girl over there if she'd like to go with us. And I was just making a fucking joke. He was furious. He got pissed. So we're all getting in the car, getting ready to leave. I'm in a Lincoln Town car at that point. Batista comes over and knocks on the window. Says, Mr. Bolin, would you mind if I have a word with you? And I look at the boys. I said, this ain't going to be good. I said, sure. So I get out of the car. And he says, I might get some heat for this, and I might even get Cornette mad at me, but I don't appreciate you hitting on my girlfriend. And I looked at him and grinned. I said, that's what you viewed that as? I said, I was hitting on your girlfriend. I said, this is the first time we've ever met. I said, but I tell you what, Mr. Batista, and I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, you will never, ever have to worry about me hitting on your girlfriend again. And I said, by the way, if you think she's going to pick my big fat ass over you, you're the one with the problems, not me. But I promise you, I will never, ever hit on her again. You have my word. Good day. No heat. No heat. I ain't even going to mention it to Cornette. So I get in the car and I look at them. I said, I'll never speak to that piece of shit motherfucker again. And the only time I ever had to deal with him again is when they wanted me to hit him in the back of the head with a briefcase. And Jimmy says, are you going to catch him with the edge of it? I said, if I thought it would do any good, I might. That big motherfucker probably wouldn't flinch. So he sold it good. There was I got to hit him as hard as I could because that was what the job called for. And so we did all right. And so I don't know if there's still any hatred for me over that shit or not. maybe he's pissed that I told the story, but we didn't do so good. He and I did not get along too good. But politically,
so I've got to interject there, guys, because we have a friend of the show that passed away on Christmas Eve. One of my best friends, the American Psycho Stephen Bonner, who trained Batista for his MMA fight. A lot of people may not know that. Yeah, so
I didn't know Batista had an MMA fight. I knew Bobby Lashley did and Lesnar, but I didn't know Batista had one.
He had one, and he was victorious.
Was he really?
He fought a guy that was 4-1. He fought a guy that was 4-1, but they came in not in the greatest of shape, but still had a good background, and Bonner kind of put Batista over in having trained him. And said that he was a very good athlete, and Bonner said he taught him just enough to get that win, to get by and get that win. It was kind of a bucket list item for Batista.
He was definitely not on my list of people I wanted to fight. That was for damn sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of former MMA competitors, I wanted to ask you, Mr. Bolin, about one of your former charges, Sean O'Hare.
Yeah.
I for the life of me remember his huge push being attached to Piper, and he seemingly had it all. The look, he came across as a killer. I thought his promos were actually quite serviceable.
His WWE promos were even better than what he did here. You remember when he was doing the gimmick in the suit, and I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, anti-corporate, anti-this. Those were fucking great. You know why that went away?
No.
Vince didn't get it. All the rest of us got it. The rest of us said, God damn, he's going to be one of the biggest stars up there. That is I don't know who put all that gimmick together. It wasn't anything that we did. And he even called himself a killer whenever we did promos and he would step in. Now, if you see the promos he did with me, they looked rehearsed. They looked scripted. And he did not deliver the way a John Cena, myself, or even a Simon Dean or someone else I don't get along with too well. But he could do excellent promos. Just because I don't like you, don't mean I won't give you proper criticism. And Simon Dean could do some very good promos. Whatever he wrestled as down here, Nova. I already forgot what he wrestled as here. But we had a lot of people who could cut one hell of a promo. Mark Henry's weren't real strong when he was here. Big shows were tolerable at that point, but he certainly struggled in the promo department without a doubt.
I recall him being teamed with the rowdy one, Ronnie Piper. I
do remember that Sean O'Hare beat Hulk Hogan on television on SmackDown. Now Hogan was that mask gimmick he was doing. But everyone knew it was Hogan, and he beat him clean on SmackDown, and that's when we said, well, fuck, there ain't no stopping him now. Everybody knows he just beat Hulk Hogan clean right in the middle of the ring, but Vince didn't get the gimmick and scratched it. And the rest of us that saw it just thought it was going to be one of the greatest fucking gimmicks ever. And I was one of those. Even though I didn't come up with it, I thought it was great. Whoever did come up with it knew what they were doing. But Vince didn't think Cena would make it. Vince wanted to cut Cena. He even admits that on the My Life DVD. He did not get Cena, and none of us were, what the fuck? If this guy ain't, he don't need 5 wrestling moves. That's all he needs. He's fucking promos and that look alone. He's a fucking movie star. And look what he's doing now. He's doing the Peacemaker. I've been recording commercials and sending them to people in the Philippines in case they don't get to see them, because Cena's a fucking god there. That's how I got reasonably famous in the Philippines, is people wanting me to get him his autograph. And plus, Cena and I were on television there for 5 years. Listen to this shit. They would insert mine and Cena's matches from OVW in SmackDown matches. They would take out a SmackDown match they didn't like and put me and Cena in every week. And Filipinos are writing me during the live show on Fox. And I had a girlfriend there at the time named Lena. And she wrote me and says, Daddy Bear. She called me Daddy Bear. She said I treated her even better than her. Says nobody ever loved her like I did other than her father. So she used to call me Daddy Bear, and her dad died of a heart attack 5 years previously. And she says, Daddy Bear, I'm watching you on the SmackDown right now. I said, you are? I said, well, that's kind of hard to do, honey. I haven't done anything film for television on SmackDown. I said, I've been at some, but I said, no, it ain't me, honey. I'm not on SmackDown. Yeah, you are, Daddy Bear. I'm watching SmackDown, and you're in the ring with John Cena and some guy with long black curly hair. I said, that's Rico. I said, you sure you're not watching one of my DVDs? She said, you've never sent me no DVDs. I said, you're right. I haven't. I said, is it on YouTube or something? She says, no, Daddy Bear, I'm watching SmackDown and you're on. And I'm thinking, how the fuck is that? I said, so what is on before SmackDown? She says, Walking Dead. I said, we watch Walking Dead, and then me and Grandma watch you on SmackDown every week, Daddy Bear. Every week? So we looked into it, and what the Philippines was doing is that their TV people, for 5 years, were putting mine and Cena's matches injected into the show. They just take out something they didn't like and put me in, and that way they could say John Cena was on SmackDown every week. And it turned out they were doing that in 2012. I retired OVW in 2012. So I wasn't even on OVW TV no more in September of 2012. And they were showing stuff from 2000, 2001, 2002.
Wow.
Oh, that's surprising.
Making people think it was current shit.
Yeah, because, WWE got so hard behind Cena in his movie career, because I'll give you two examples. Legendary, which was the amateur wrestling movie that they did, and the original Marine. The Marine, those were WWE film productions.
Which they ended up working The Miz big on those Marines. Now, Orton was a Marine. Did they ever work him on any of the Marine shows?
Maybe he was the second one, but I know that with the point I was saying with Cena was, it was the Marine, but also the movie Legendary. That was their amateur wrestling movie that they did.
I'm trying to remember if I watched Legendary or not. I can't remember.
It's actually a pretty good movie. It's actually a pretty good movie, but they were giving him the big push.
If Cena does a good job in whatever they put him in.
Speaking of Cena, Kenny, I wanted to also ask you, I've heard you comment on some other broadcasts that you were about a minute or so away from accompanying Cena out on a Raw.
Oh yeah. That's a shoot that can be verified by Rico and everybody involved. Rico was. We talked about it recently on my show. It's on video right now. You can easily go to YouTube and find it. Is when myself managing, there's Chairman Meow Meow coming up here to eat her cat food. It was a match at Freedom Hall. We were there as a dark match. We were the opening dark for Monday Night Raw. There's us, and then Raw opens. So we thought that alone was a pretty big deal. Roughly 20,000 people in the seats. I think the biggest crowd that I had performed in front of at that time was probably 5,000 or 6,000 at Louisville Gardens, which when it's full, it always looks like 20,000 when you're the worker, be it 3,000, 6,000, or 20,000 or 30,000. If it's full, it looks like a big deal. But this was a fucking big deal to sell out a fucking basketball arena. So we're at Freedom Hall. It holds roughly about 20,000 people then, and we go out, we do the match. Brock does the sunset flip that got like 3 fucking replays on the Titantron, which we were told had never happened. A dark match had never gotten multiple replays on the Titantron. So we lose the tag titles to Brock and Shelton during the dark match. We go back to the Gorilla. Congratulations all the way around. They're fucking loving it. God damn, you guys have never been on big stage television before, man. You look like you fucking belong, man. You all did a great job. Jim Ross says, can they go out and do it again? And we look at him and I said, yeah. Jimmy's answering for, yeah, they can do it again. He said, well, we're going to need to change the finish. He said, I guess you're going to have to get the titles back. And I said, why are we going out again? And he says, well, the first match ain't ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to send you guys back out there and we're going to join you in progress. And Ross will explain that, hey guys, this is a little unusual here, but we got a match going on. The OVW tag titles on the line. It's not over yet. So we're just going to pick it up in progress live here on the USA Network or whatever we were on back then. And we're all going, hell fucking yeah, let's do it. We'll just change the finish. So me, Cena, and Rico are sitting there getting coached in the Gorilla with Vince and hell, I think Gorilla Monsoon was still there then. It was really still the Gorilla. And I think it was 2000, 2001 right around there. I think Gorilla was still. I remember him being there. Pat Patterson was there. And so we're getting coached to go back out and do that match again. We've been told to keep it to about 7 minutes and do it again, but change the finish because the fans have already seen this one. So we can't have 20,000 people shitting on the finish. So just switch it back, and if y'all can do what you want with the titles later. So we're ready to go. And the reason we're given is that the first match is not ready to go yet. So we are in countdown mode. We're all standing in Gorilla, and Rico is more amped up than anybody. He's like, yeah, man. And he does that rocking and everything. And he's very high. He's very high amped. Me and Cena, not so much most of the time, but we're ready. We're very excited. We're getting ready to open fucking Monday Night Raw from a AAA development school, which is never happened and probably never going to happen again. And I think we were 15 seconds away from going down the ramp to do that match again. And they said, all right, they're ready. And we got yanked. And they sent the other group up. I wish I could remember who it was that was not ready. But whatever the opening match was that night, I'm sure somebody can look it up. That's who fucking stole our spot. And Rico, to this day, he says, Kenny, do you know how fucking huge that would have been? He says, you know how good that match was, all the pop, all the buzz about it, everybody in the back raving that match could have been seen on television. He said, we would have all got called up quicker. I said, well, you all would have. It was never in the cards for me to get called up anyway. But the national exposure on Monday Night Raw would have been great. So that's how close we were to getting to do. We were 15 seconds away from going down the ramp. Might have even been closer than that because we were waiting for our music to hit. And then whatever match was not ready. And I'm going to have to look it up and see what the first match was that night because I want to find out who fucking stole our spot. Because I guarantee you our match was better than theirs. I'll guarantee you.
Well, you're talking about the early days of John Cena, so to kind of put it in a perspective for fans, right? So, and I may be off.
But like I said, he's currently doing Manhunt while he's with us on the CW. Yeah. So he's kind of a big deal, regardless, because he's on fucking broadcast television. You can stick an antenna up there and watch John Cena on Friday nights on the CW.
On this Manhunt show, which we're gonna have to check out. But when you look at the genesis of OVW, right? And I may be off on the timeline on this, and you guys might be able to shed some light.
I lived it, and I'm normally off on the timeline too.
Yeah. So you had OVW, and then that was the top developmental league for WWE, and then we
became that because
you became that started, but what I want to say for the fans,
Memphis was number 1, Cincinnati was number 2 with Thatcher. We were third. No, we were
Thatcher. And then ahead of us. And then did it move to the Funkin' Dojo with Dory Funk, and then Florida Championship Wrestling, and then what we now know as NXT? Is that the genesis of the developmental leagues? Because
I don't recall it, and he died, and we don't recall it being the. I don't think the Funkin' Dojo came into play anywhere, but I know
wasn't but for fans, and Jack's a historian, he'll know this better than I. Wasn't the Funkin' Dojo before they transitioned to Florida Championship Wrestling? And before Funkin' Dojo, wasn't it OVW as far as developmental leagues?
All the other ones went away, and then after we were done, I don't know who got it. Because there for a while it was us in Atlanta. What was his name? Joey, the guy that ran Atlanta.
Oh boy,
used to be the assassin, Joey something or another.
Hamilton.
Joey Hamilton, yeah.
Joey Hamilton.
So there for quite some time, it was just us in Atlanta. And there was some of the people in Atlanta I never worked with.
But after you guys, wasn't it Florida based?
We remember
Florida Championship Wrestling.
To my understanding, there was a loose relationship with the Funkin' Dojo and Dory Funk in and around the same time as OVW, and there was a brief transitory period when OVW shut down that they took over that role. But then
I was gone by then, so it might be why I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, in terms of we listened to Kenny Bolin here, and he's talking about all these stars that came into WWE. It was the developmental league. They were the premier developmental league. Well, nowadays that's NXT, right?
Oh yeah.
But before NXT, it was Florida Championship Wrestling, and I'm pretty sure before Florida Championship Wrestling, it was Funkin' Dojo, right? So I think they supplanted OVW after OVW became defunct. Now that's why I wanted to defer to Jack on that.
Well, it wasn't really that they were defunct. They've actually never ever gone anywhere. But our contract with them ended in April of 2010. 2008. Yeah, our contract ended with them in April of 2008, and then eventually we got the TNA contract. And the product got so bad I had to leave. So for the fans that want to understand this relationship, because everybody wants to peek behind the curtain, did WWE our contract with WWE was from August of '99 through April of 2008.
Hey, okay, cool. So during that time frame, how did it work? Did they give you a budget to run your shows?
To a degree. And we did find out that our budget was 1/20th of what the NXT budget was. Our budget the entire time, even at the end, 1/20th of the NXT budget. And Danny once said to me, he says, can you imagine what the fuck we could have done with 20 times more money than we had? Can you only fucking imagine the look we could have had, the monitors, the slick look they've got? He says they get 20, but Triple H is running that, and Triple H and Stephanie never gave two fucks about us anyway. They didn't give a shit how much talent we sent. They wanted total control, and as long as Jimmy was here, that wasn't going to happen because Jimmy's a control freak. They're a control freak, and I think Triple H did a good job of what they used to do with Asuka and Shinsuke Nakamura and various others. He proved that he could develop talent better than what Vince was trying to get done, because Vince didn't recognize talent when he saw it. If it was up to him, he dropped the ball on Sean O'Hare. He tried to drop the ball on John Cena. They cut Rico. Rico was cut for 90 days, and we said, well, if you're going to cut him and pay him anyway, let him tour with you. And Steve Austin went to bat for us on that. Steve loved Rico. Worked with us at the Louisville Gardens.
Didn't Rico come out of American Gladiators originally?
Yeah, originally he came out of American Gladiators, and then he worked with Bassman, and then from Bassman to us, they sent him. So Bassman was kind of tied into that developmental thing too. So yeah, so hell, we were probably 5th or 6th, because ahead of us were Bassman, Cincinnati, Memphis, Puerto Rico. I think there was a little something going on in Texas. I can't remember if it was Shawn Michaels that was running it or Booker T or whoever. But we were the bottom rung. And then eventually they kept falling and we kept moving up.
So what did WWE do? Did they give you TV deals? Did they give you a budget?
They just gave us a small budget. I don't know exactly what that budget was. I was on a supplemental budget, mainly because I had some health issues, and the WWE made it possible for me to pay for my medications. Very small. It was like $250, $300 a month. But they knew I was making 30% off selling personal appearances and TV advertising. So Jimmy figured that I was making probably $100,000 a year in sponsorship money, advertising money, and all the free shit that I got from being on the television show. I never paid for a car. I never paid for rent. All the WWE wrestlers rented from me, and I made a profit renting my home to WWE stars that lived with me. And so Jimmy says, you've got it made here, man. No one tells you what to fucking do. You work when you want. There are times that you show up for TV, and that's the only thing you'll do all week. You get to be with your kid anytime you want. No one's telling you shit. You don't have to wear a headset. No one tells you what to say. If they did offer you a deal into WWE, you'd quit in 2 weeks, because they're going to try to tell you what to say. They're going to tell you what to do. They all know more than you, regardless whether they've been in the business 6 weeks or 60 years. They all fucking know more than you, and they're going to drive you fucking nuts like they did me. Now, whether that would have been the case or not, I don't know. But I still, to this day, I had to wear a headset when I did out. They brought me back for the 1200th episode at OVW back in October. And I wore a headset for the first time ever as a favor to Al. And when I hear him yelling at people, I thought he was yelling at me, and it fucked with me. And I get to the back. He said, man, that was fucking great. I said, didn't sound like that in my fucking headset. He said, well, I wasn't yelling at you. I was yelling at everybody else. And I said, well, I thought it was me. And I'm going, I haven't done this in fucking 10 years. Give me a break. And in the
So
second
just
match,
to
I lit it up. I thought the second match that I called was much better because I was even down on myself on the first one because I didn't know how much they wanted from me. Turned out they wanted a lot. Because when I just took over the second
so
match,
just as
James Storm was
putting
in the
a
main
bow
event,
on,
and I knew everyone involved, so that match was more comfortable for me to do. Go ahead. Don't let me interrupt.
sorry,
you.
just no. Just to encapsulate the OVW experience. I mean, as you pointed out, the results can't be argued, and you could even look at the NXT program, despite all their funding and exposure and et cetera, not being as successful as OVW was during
absolutely
that
not.
heyday period.
Absolutely not.
So,
and here's the other thing you need to point out: everybody that came out as a star at NXT, name me the one, because all my guys, other than Mark Henry, maybe Bull Buchanan, everyone else was developed from dirt. Had never set foot in a WWE ring. Rico had only had 12 matches in his life. He'd only had 12 matches with Rick Bassman. 12 fucking matches is all he'd ever had. Everybody else I sent to the WWE had never performed in a professional wrestling ring on a big television stage. Name me any other wrestling manager, be it Bobby Heenan, who I love to death, who I still say is better than me, Jim Cornette, Captain Lou Albano. Just name me any of them that developed 54 people from dirt minus 2, even though they were dirt when I got them because they didn't know what to do. That's why they were sent to me. That's why we got Mark Henry and Bull Buchanan and Big Show and people, because they didn't know what to do. And they proved that when they got in the ring. But name me who else has done that. And
yeah,
so I don't mind blowing my own horn because, as Bobby Heenan once said, who better knows the tune? No, Roddy Piper said that. I don't mind blowing my own horn because who better knows the tune? And and look how many of my guys are still up there making fucking big money. No one else has that. So yeah, the results do speak for themselves.
You mentioned a gentleman that a lot of people have heard the name, and he actually had a show on this channel with Bubble Bean and Boss Rutan is Rick Bassman, and I've talked to Rick a number of times. He wanted to do a deal with Jimsy.
I actually had him on my show once, and Cornette lost his motherfucking mind.
That's when I talked to him. He called me. He called me when he had the whole deal going with he wanted to fight Jimsy. But interesting character. But explain this, because I think
he would have beat Jimmy with an inch of his life. By the way, he would have beat Jimmy with an inch of his life.
But a lot of people don't understand this, and I've never understood it. Was Rick Bassman? Did he have a independent wrestling promotion? Where did he come? Where did he groom his guys? Like, how did he develop his own talent?
Somewhere in California, I'm guessing the Los Angeles area, because that's where Bear lives, Sylvester Turkey. That's where Rico was living for a while. And
he goes all the way back. Doesn't he goes all the way back to Sting and the Ultimate Warrior? Bassman.
That I couldn't tell you about. I don't know anything about that. The first time I saw Sting and Ultimate Warrior was when they were the some pathetic ass tag team in Memphis. They were the
Blade Runners.
Blade Runners. They were labeled as the worst tag team in the history of professional wrestling by about anybody that ever saw them.
I never saw them. I never saw them wrestle, but but they were a creation of Rick Bassman and Jack is a wrestling story.
I wouldn't be taking credit for it. It's all I know. They were bad. And then I'll tell you someone else that wasn't very good either was Hogan and Beefcake when they were here. They were here as Teddy and Eddie Bolay.
Brothers.
They were singles and tag teams and brothers. And they were here, and Jerry Jarrett couldn't wait to get rid of them. He couldn't wait to get rid of the Blade Runners. And then the next thing we know, Sting and the Warrior are two of the biggest goddamn stars ever in the fucking wrestling business. And then you got Hogan and then the next time we saw Hulk Hogan, he was in a goddamn Rocky movie. And world champion in AWA, and they didn't see anything in him here. They couldn't wait to get rid of them. So there's 4 blown spots in Memphis right there. They were here. They could have been developed here. Undertaker was pretty much developed here. Kane was God, if you don't want to give Smoky Mountain credit, he had some shit to do in Memphis there as well. But they blew it on 4 of them. The Dingo Warrior, Ultimate Warrior, Sting, Hulk Hogan, and Beefcake were all in Memphis, and they couldn't wait to get rid of them. So, what do you do?
I wanted to ask you a rather esoteric question for now, as we're quickly burning through our time, Kenny. But you had commented in the past that you were the one who came up with the Montreal screw job and fed that.
In all fairness, in all actuality, it was a joint effort by me and Jimmy. I was the one who actually came up with the finish, and then Jimmy actually told me how stupid I was, that Hart would never be stupid enough to fall for that on his last match, to let Sean put him in the sharpshooter. I said, but that's just it. He doesn't have to be in it long. He doesn't have to know that there's going to be selling and all this shit. Just let Sean put him in it. And then, because they were all terrified that Brett was not going to put over Sean. They knew Sean couldn't whip Brett in a real fight. And they were convinced that he was going to, who was the girl that took the belt and threw it in the trash? Medusa,
yeah.
They were scared that he was going to do the same thing. And and Bret Hart also claimed he couldn't lose in Canada. I said, has Shawn Michaels ever made the claim he can't lose in the United States? I said, okay, we can give Shawn San Antonio. Yeah, guys, please don't make me lose in my hometown. You know, let me win in San Antonio. Okay, whatever. What's Bret Hart's hometown?
Calgary.
Calgary. All right, we'll give you Calgary, but we can't give you all of fucking Canada. Sorry. And you're leaving anyway. You're going to make more money elsewhere. So, no, you're going to fucking put him over. You're going to hand him the fucking title. Shake hands if you want. I don't give a fuck how you do it. But so it was evident he wasn't going to do that. He had made it clear he wasn't losing. He made it clear that he wasn't putting anybody over, and he wasn't losing in fucking Canada. And so the next thoughts are, so this goes on for 3 or 4 weeks of us coming up with ideas of how to get out of there with Brett losing and not jack shit he can do about it. So 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time, probably about 3 weeks, I came up with, and Jimmy can say what he wants. He's a fucking liar if he says otherwise. The sharpshooter, because Jimmy told me I was an idiot, that Hart would never fall for that. And then he said, you know, the more I think about it, if Sean just puts him in it for a few seconds, whoever the referee is, and we didn't know it was going to be Hebner at the time, but we had a feeling that was who it was going to be. The only people we fucking smarten up are Vince, yourself, and Hebner. You don't even have to fucking smarten Sean up. Sean just knows to put him in the fucking sharpshooter. Everybody thinks he's going to beat Brett with his own fucking hold. Give it 3, 4, 5 seconds. And then Hebner, he gave up. He ring the fucking bell. So originally I was told I was an idiot. And then the more they thought about it, they said, you know what? That ain't a bad idea. So Jimmy takes it to Vince. Vince shits all over it. No, we're not going to do that. He's not going to fuck us over. He's given me his word that he won't throw the belt in the trash, but he doesn't want to lose in Canada. So this goes on for 3 weeks, and we're still talking, trying to come up with ways to do this. And I got a call. Jimmy claims he never made that call. He did, because he called me and told me to make sure that I did not miss that pay-per-view. He said that basically in Mark Henry terminology, the shit's on. The shit's on. Oh, really? Okay. So I knew the fuck was coming. And he tipped me off the fuck was coming. He tries to claim he never made that call. And then the other reason that fuck him, he's the one that told me to go on Who's Slamming Who and tell the story. He wanted everybody to know that he and I were the ones that came up with the idea, with him not having to either shit on me or to promote me as to whether the idea was real or not. He said, well, you just tell the story as it is. And then when people ask me about it, oh God, you all know Kenny. Kenny's liable to say anything. And that way he could not denounce it nor promote it, but the story would be out there. And I could just swear to God it was true. And then people would either believe me or not. But I want the story out there. Well then, and I love Vince Russo to death, but then Vince claimed it was his idea. And I was told Vince Russo wasn't anywhere near the place, because Jimmy said that he was going to the house, to Vince's house, coming up with these ideas and pitching them to Vince, and Vince mainly shitting on them. And then supposedly, apparently Russo now claims he was on the phone talking to Vince about it. But Jimmy swears to God that Russo didn't have shit to do with it, and he couldn't have, because I know goddamn what was my idea, because I came up with it 3 weeks before it fucking happened. And so for whatever it's worth, I don't give a fuck if people believe me or not. I know what the fuck happened. Doesn't make my day or break my day if he's lying. Well, fuck you. You don't know. You weren't there. But I was, and I do, and I got no fucking reason to lie about it.
I believe the esteemed Mr. Bolin, but I am also in the camp of Kevin Nash and the late great Scott Hall on this. Watch that broadcast.
What do they say?
Watch that. I say watch the broadcast, and for any fans that want to go back and watch it, they show Bret Hart spitting a loogie.
Yes.
And
I saw that.
McMahon's face. They show on camera. Keep in mind now, this is on a live pay-per-view. They show Bret Hart tearing up the table and breaking all this merchandise.
Right.
I think the whole damn thing was a work. But
I'll tell you why it's not. And people in the wrestling business are groomed, as we've been using that word earlier, are groomed to think everything's a fucking work. I've been hearing the CM Punk with the AEW was a work. Well, it was a costly one that hasn't made them any fucking money, and we still haven't seen CM Punk. I told everybody tonight.
But Kenny, in this case, it made him a fortune. With subsequent. Well, because Vince McMahon became the villain.
Vince. Okay, I thought you were talking about Punk.
I'm not talking. I don't pay attention to this.
Well, hang on, and I'm going to tell you why it wasn't. I'm going to tell you why it wasn't a work. He tore the shit up because he's pissed. He knew it was his last fucking night there. But I also have the firsthand backstage shit that went on. Have you heard all that? Maybe you haven't. Do you know what happened backstage immediately? What happened backstage immediately is that Bret stormed in to where Vince was. I don't know if it was his office or where it was, but he was surrounded by Triple H, Shane McMahon, and a couple of others. And when Bret got backstage, and you may not have heard this, he hits McMahon right in the fucking jaw. Have you heard that?
Well, I saw Vince McMahon. He had that perfect black eye that looked. It's just a whole thing to be seen.
All you want. I have talked to 3 people that saw it happen personally. 3 people that I talked to saw it happen. He hit, and Jimmy was one of them. He hit Vince right in the eye. Shane steps in. Hang on. Shane steps in, not Triple H or anybody else. Shane, who people don't realize this, is a pretty fucking tough guy himself. Not too many people can take Shane down, including most of the boys, excluding The Undertaker and maybe a few others. Shane is going to whip Bret's ass, or at least he thinks he is. And Vince grabs him and says, nope. He gets one. And that was the one they gave him. So it could be a perfect black eye, or maybe they enhanced it for television. I don't know. That's a possibility. But Vince stepped in, pulled Shane back. Nope, he gets one. And they said the words that were exchanged and the hatred that went back and forth, that Bret was fucking furious. And he did hit Vince in the eye once. I got 3 people that saw it happen. There's no reason to fucking throw a working punch backstage. No, it was definitely not a work. And
you don't think that they could have been? You don't think that they could have been working the boys on this?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not, because they didn't
Jack,
bother.
What do you think? We got to bring the third man in. Jack, you're a Canadian. You're the only Canadian here. The only. What do you think? Do you think this thing was a work or what?
I have to agree with Kenny in terms of the fact that people in the wrestling business are, as he mentioned, groomed to think that everything is a work.
Oh,
me
and Jimmy are still a work. People think me and Jimmy, we haven't spoken 6 years. And I said, well, where's the payoff? Jimmy and I could have made a fuckload of goddamn money the last 6 years.
You just said it. Payoff? You just said it, though, Kenny. Where's the payoff? The payoff on this was the WWE's subsequent success. Vince McMahon
There's no guarantee of that, though. They got fucking lucky. There's no way that you can think, well, if we do this, we're going to make buku motherfucking dollars off from it. And then Bret be fucking happy to go along with it to help you make buku fucking dollars for making him look like an idiot for tapping out on his own hold that he didn't tap out on. There was absolutely no fucking reason to do that, and Bret would have never went along with it.
What
ever.
about this reality show that was being filmed during it that had access to the back? And then the other aspect, and then I'll close out on this, is Brett
Well,
was
did you ever see any film of Brett hitting Vince in the face?
no,
Nope.
because I think
But
they
yet-
worked
But
that
yet
whole
there's a
thing.
reality.
Now
There's a
here's
reality
I'm
show.
going to
Hang
always think
on.
that was it.
There's a
But
reality show backstage filming this shit, but no one's got any fucking film of it.
But you've got to remember, Brett had guaranteed big money to go to WCW after that.
Yeah.
And what did he do at WCW? He didn't do anything he didn't do anything to promote that brand when he went. It was almost like the perfect scenario. Now
wasn't his
I'm
idea.
gonna
He did what he was told to do, and no one knew to tell him to do the right shit. Ain't his fucking deal. You know, you can book anybody and put them in any spot, but if you don't know how to book them properly, or it ain't like he shut down and refused to show up at shows or tried to botch the fucking company. Nobody wants to put themselves in a situation to look like a fucking idiot and that you can't draw at the company you're going to. His only motivation is to be the biggest fucking star in the company. They were paying him biggest star in the fucking company money, but he never did because they didn't know what to fucking do with him. And that's where the WWE had the edge on him. Nobody would want to jeopardize their career so badly that, well, you ain't as big a fucking deal as you thought you were. You went over there. It'd be like if I jump shit with OVW to go to Memphis, and I go to Memphis and just look like a bumblefuck, and people think, well, he went down there to botch Memphis. No, I want to be the biggest motherfucking star in Memphis. And now my price tag goes up to the next fucking company I go to.
Yeah,
Maybe back to the company I just left.
All I want to say on this in closing is to the fans and we probably have some younger fans that don't even know what we're talking about, that might have heard the whispers. Go back and watch the actual footage of the pay-per-view. Watch the facial expressions of Bret Hart. Watch the loogie that was caught on camera that he spit at Vince McMahon. Watch the camera in close as he goes and destroys all of that material, all of the and he takes. They would not have shown all that if that wasn't a work. I think the whole thing was a work. I'm going to go to my grave thinking that that was
wrong, and you are going to go to your grave thinking that, because I can't smarten you up. I can't smarten you up. I got no reason to protect them any whatsoever. And of course you fucking film it, because now he is acting like a fucking buffoon, and you're showing the next company what he will do when you try to fuck with him. When you decide he can't take his belt and go home, when he decides he's not going to put somebody in another town. No, and plus I can read fucking facial expressions, especially on Vince McMahon. I've met him several times. I've met Brett several times. I'm pretty goddamn good at knowing when I'm being worked and when I'm not. That was not a work. Absolutely fucking not. And as bad as Cornette hates me right now, he'll be the first to fucking tell you the same thing. Shawn Michaels and everybody involved will tell you. Now, Shawn, apparently they did. I didn't even know for sure they had smart, because look at the fucking acting job Shawn Michaels is doing. Shawn Michaels is acting like he's upset at the whole fucking thing. He knew. Now, I didn't know if they ever smartened him up or not. I was pretty sure they did. I was pretty sure he was smart to it, but I didn't have confirmation of it. But when he throws the fucking hissy fit, that immediately told me he knew, because he wanted Brett to think he didn't. So that was why. Because if it's all a work, why not just say, motherfucker, you ain't as smart as you thought you were. All right. That's what you would do. You wouldn't he threw the hissy fit because he didn't want to get his ass beat in the fucking back thinking he fucking knew. The only ones that I know for a fact absolutely positively knew were Vince, Jimmy, Triple H, Hebner, and Shawn. Pritchard claims he knew. I've been told many times he didn't, because they were scared to death he'd fucking smarten somebody up. So I don't think Pritchard knew. And Jimmy will tell you the same thing. As bad as, like I said, as he hates me and we hate each other, supposedly, he will back this story up 100%. There was no way that they couldn't smarten anybody else up. And I'm almost shocked they did smarten Michaels up, but the minute I saw the performance he was putting on, I knew goddamn well he knew, because he knew Brett would beat his fucking ass in the back for going along with it. And that was the tip off for me. And then eventually we found, and then he admitted that he knew. So
Yeah, well, if you watch the Wrestling with Shadows, you see, and it's supposed to be so heated. Right afterwards, they have Brett and Sean sitting next to each other.
how much of Wrestling with
talking
Shadows
about,
shit do you buy?
you
I've
know,
seen a few of those.
I think
You
that
do
they were,
realize the show was made for marks, right?
and exactly, and I think that you guys are the biggest marks that you think that thing was a shoot. I think that's the
I don't
greatest
think it
work
was.
ever,
I don't think it was.
ever
I
in
know it
professional
was.
wrestling.
See, that's
I
just
think
it.
it's the
You
greatest
can
work
think
ever.
what you want. I know what it was. I lived it. I was there. I was in the fucking negotiations with Jimmy on how we're going to fucking get out of this. I got
They're
the
going
phone
to say,
call. What the
there's
fuck
a
was going.
great saying, Kenny Bolin. Sometimes when you're in the middle of a storm, you can't see which direction the wind is blowing.
Here's where I have a tremendous advantage. You were nowhere near the storm. You weren't on the edge of it. You weren't on the top of it. You weren't on the bottom of it. I was there, lived the whole thing, know every fucking body involved. No reason to protect Brett. No reason to protect Sean. No reason to protect Shane or Vince or anybody else. I know the discussions that went on to set this fucking up. It eventually fucking happened exactly the way it was supposed to be. Your reality television show never got one fucking frame of this in the back to have access and record all this shit. Yeah, we knew they were doing a reality show. Guess what? They didn't catch on film. They didn't catch that. Why? Probably because they weren't allowed to be anywhere near it.
I
But
think that
you
was
are
by
dead
design.
wrong.
I just want to,
You are
I
dead
just
fucking
want to
wrong.
say
You're going to
we'll
lose
agree
your
to
title of
disagree,
king.
Kenny.
You're going to be Prince of Connecticut if you don't smart yourself up a little bit.
We're going to agree to disagree, Kenny Bolin. I agree with big sexy Kevin Nash and the late
Well,
great
Jack has
Scott
already
Hall.
agreed.
I think this was the
What did Big
greatest work
Sexy
of
and
all
Kevin
time.
Nash say? Who, by the way, I don't think we're anywhere near there.
Well, Kevin Nash feels adamantly that this was a work, and so did the late great Scott Hall. And those are the two guys that came out in the subsequently and laid it all out and talked about the camera angle. I just want to tell the fans, and we probably have younger fans.
He's full of shit. If Kevin said that, he's full of shit.
I never want to tell
Kevin
people.
Already gone by then? Wasn't Kevin already gone?
You know what? I believe he already was. The NWO thing was starting
Razor
out.
Ramon already gone, so they wouldn't know dick about it anyway.
Those guys like myself, they weren't in the storm, so they didn't have a dog in the fight. They were able to view it from the outside.
They did have a dog in the fight. They helped recruit the dog that came there. They were the ones that fucking recruited him to come to WCW. So they did.
That is true. That is true. I'm not going to say that I know I'm not going to say that I know this to be true. I'm just going to urge the fans, seek information here, not confirmation.
You got them all worked up in here in the chat room. You got all the marks going crazy.
I've got Cheryl Ladd coming back in, but Cheryl, I'll be right there with you, honey. On that note, I've got to go. I've got
Cheryl taking this shit. It was a word. Poor Cheryl. I wish you'd smarten her up.
I gotta check out because she's waiting for me. Kenny, it's been great. It's been great having you on. And I just want to say to close this out, this is a great story, and I want the younger fans. I want you to listen to everything Kenny Bolin has to say. He was there, but I want you to make up your own mind. And Jack
I want
Kilby,
you to watch the video he's begging you to watch. I want you to watch it for me. I will encourage you to watch the video that convinced him it was a work. Please do.
I guess I'm a big mark too, and thankfully so. But
we all are marks to a degree, or we'd never.
You want to love it. I love watching, and I love watching. And I'm not going to say that that I know the fact. I'm just going to say that when I watched that with it, and I saw the way the cameras were pointed, and again, Kenny may be right. Kenny was there, but watch it yourselves.
Fucking cameras, they all got to be pointing somewhere, and it's normally at the action that's going on. So at least the cameramen were doing their fucking job. There's action going on. Film it.
I think this has been a fascinating discussion, and we could turn this into an ongoing podcast. But we've reached the end of our time. Kenny, where can the fans find you on social media, and what do you have to plug, sir?
Tuesday night, probably doing Birthday Bash Part 4. I've been trying to milk the fans out of as much money as I possibly can. So Part 4 of the Birthday Bash will be Tuesday. That'll probably be the final Birthday Bash. For those of you that haven't had a chance to PayPal me any money, to Kenny Bolin at MSN.com, or for those that want to help feed my Filipino families, Food for Filipinos at gmail.com. That's the other PayPal address to where you can make donations. None of you will, because you're a bunch of broke ass bitches that ain't got no fucking money. You only worry about yourselves and you only help yourself. None of you are going to donate to help these people, but I do. And that's why I step up and do these things. And I know the king of Connecticut, with all that fucking cash he's got laying around, he's probably going to sell one or two of his properties and cut me a nice check and help me feed a shitload of people. It's just the kind of
absolutely.
guy
Most definitely.
You can catch me on the bowling alley. Just go to youtube.com/the bowling alley, or you can see the Starmaker Bowling show it's at Starmaker Bowling. Go to youtube.com/at Starmaker Bowling, but it takes you to the same place. You find all the shows, and we do live shows on Tuesday nights and Thursday nights at 9:05 p.m. East. And occasionally we'll do a weekend show on Saturday nights at 9 or 10 o'clock for the people that are off and like to stay up late and have some fun, like we've done here today.
I really appreciate you coming on again, Kenny, and I have a feeling.
Well, you should. You didn't tell me I was going to be ambushed and attacked by the king of Connecticut and told that I'm a mark and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And well, just because you lived it and saw it, you don't know shit. But I know more than you. You didn't tell me I was going to be ambushed.
He's.
No, I want to clarify that I want to clarify that I think
Cheryl
Kenny
Ladd watching the show, making me nervous. I didn't know Cheryl Ladd was watching the goddamn show.
There you go.
Kenny Bolin is no doubt a man of great knowledge, but this is something that I hate to say, I still have to agree with Big Sexy Kevin Nash on this, and the late great Scott Hall. But I never say that I'm right. I don't know if I'm right. And I think Kenny Bolin was there. He knows. I just want to urge the fans to watch it themselves.
Well, why don't we put Kevin Nash on this show, and I will come on and debate Kevin Nash, being as I was actually closer to the situation than Kevin Nash was, even though he did help recruit Bret Hart. Bring him on. I'll come on and debate Kevin any day of the week.
Well, the Hannibal TV would be very, very willing to facilitate that.
I thought you might.
We'll call it the Great Debate 2, Kenny, in reference to
Part 2.
Your first with Mr. Cornette. Regardless, again,
unfortunately, we don't have the late, great Jerry Jarrett to host it like we did the last time. I'm sure Jerry Jarrett would have been honored to have been the host. And shout out to the Jarrett family. I love Jerry with a passion, and I've had a little interaction with Jeff and since his father passed away. And matter of fact, me and my son had planned on going to visit Jerry in March or April when the weather broke here. And we never dreamed we weren't going to have him anymore. He seemed like he was in such good health. He went for treatments on his throat cancer that he was dealing with, and he passed away when he got home after his first chemo treatment. But one of the great promoters of all time, Jerry Jarrett, and love him to death.
Absolutely. R.I.P.
Yeah.
King, do you have any closing thoughts on this, the Great North Wrestling Podcast?
I do. I want to actually encourage the fans of Great North Wrestling and old school shooters to listen to the sit-down interview that the Hannibal did with Jerry Jarrett. I listened to it after his passing. It was fantastic. Got a tour of his home. And that's the way that we allow folks' memories to live on. One of my good friends died Christmas Eve, and we were able to do some tributes ourselves. Jack Kilby, to the great Stephen Bonner that we referenced on this show as well. And we want to encourage people to listen to Hannibal's interview with Jerry Jarrett. What a great guy, man. What a beautiful home he had in Tennessee. What a great history he had. Kenny Bolin.
The country music stars were jealous of Jerry Jarrett's house. People would drive by and see Jarrett's house. Oh, what country music star owns that? Oh, well, that's not a country music star. That's wrestling promoter Jerry Jarrett. And this is back when he was still promoting.
He even showed Hannibal how to make his famous chicken salad. As well.
Yeah, he taught me how to do it too. That's how I make my chicken salad. I love it.
Yeah, great guy. And Kenny Bolin's a great guy too. We can agree to disagree on the whole, on the entire.
One of us is right and the other one's wrong. As long as you don't mind admitting you're wrong, we'll have absolutely no problems with this.
But I do want to say, I do want to say before we close out, Jack Kilby, I'm guarantee you we have some young fans that don't even know what we're talking about that can go back and watch this, that can watch the Montreal screw job and form their own opinions. I bought into the whole thing until I started listening to the late great Scott Hall, who RIP as well, and Kevin Nash, as they laid out their case that this thing was all a work, and it kind of made sense to me. But maybe Kenny Bolin's right. I don't know. I don't profess to know the truth. I just say find
one more thing before we go.
What
What do you think the ones that would have the most to gain out of it and to admit this and just create the whole fucking story again would be Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels? No one would criticize them. Hey, you know what? We worked all you dumb motherfuckers. Aren't we great? We worked you all. And neither one of them said that. And you know why? Because they know it'd be a fucking lie.
But on that note, didn't Shawn Michaels for a long time claim that he had no knowledge of it, and then he later admitted?
Keep Bret from beating his ass. That's exactly why he did it. That's why he put on the performance he did. Bret would have beat him with an inch of his life. I mean, whatever you want to think about Shawn Michaels, he's not known as a fighter. Every fight he's ever gotten in a shoot, he got his ass whipped by fans or whomever.
He got beat up in Syracuse, New York, I remember years ago. Yeah,
I heard about that one. But no, that's why he said that he didn't know, because he didn't want Bret to know that he knew. And then eventually he had to come clean about it because everybody fucking told him that Shawn knew. Once everyone found out.
Could be. I just the big thing that I wonder on this, and I want to keep belaboring the point, is why
you're belaboring the point.
All right, I'm going to close it out. I'm going to close it out for us tonight.
Who just celebrated her 10th birthday. You don't want to listen.
I got to get to Cheryl Ladd over here. I want to close out by saying Silver Sages. I want to hit the tagline, Silver Sages spreading knowledge to the younger ages. Thanks to Kenny Bolin and my co-host Jack Kilby. Old school shooters, baby. Have a good night, everybody.
We said good day.
Thanks, Kenny. Once again, we'll definitely have you back. Appreciate your time.
I'm going to be looking for a big donation for my families after this fucking ambush. Trust me, I'll be checking PayPal about 5 minutes from now, and it better have a lot of zeros in it.
I think that would be appropriate, and we'll pick this up.
A lot of it needs to be coming from the King of Connecticut down here. He needs to sell one of those fucking houses.
The residents in the Antilles or something. We will definitely pick this up again. Fans, I just want to let you know before we go that tomorrow night there will be a special Monday edition of the Great North Wrestling Podcast with part 2 of a deep dive into the career of Barry Horowitz with Barry Horowitz.
Hey, that's pretty cool.
It will be. Please tune in and enjoy it. And
I think he follows me on Facebook. Give him my love for me.
I absolutely will. I think he's one of our most popular guests on the Great North Wrestling Podcast and really has quite a career to speak of. So fans, that's it for tonight's edition of the Great North Wrestling Podcast with the esteemed Mr. Bolin and King of Connecticut. And we'll leave you with this, a promo for the big Great North Wrestling 15th anniversary show coming up in Ottawa, Ontario. Jack Kilby here, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling. No Gimmicks Entertainment is pleased to present Great North Wrestling's huge 15th anniversary show on Saturday, May the 6th at the Earl Armstrong Arena in Ottawa, Ontario. Bell time 7 p.m. This stacked card will feature former TNA Impact World Heavyweight Champion Cowboy James Storm, WCW legend The Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan managing the diabolical Blood Hunter, second generation former TNA star Aces and Eights Wes Briscoe, Canadian champion Black Dynamite Jeremy Prophet, and former GNW Women's Champion Jessica Black, the Conspiracy Horsemen of Ayatollah Bin Hameen and Greek god Papadon from Vince Russo's brand, Ottawa wrestling legend Bruiser, with much more to be announced. Fans, there will be a meet and greet before the event and at intermission. Tickets now on sale, available at ticketweb.ca and at the door. Don't you dare miss it.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us on Twitter at The Hannibal TV for instant updates.